And of course, we have today one, I would say, unique person, our guest from South Africa. His name is Devan Naidu. I think you read a description of his profile in the invitation to this event. He has got a lot of experience in really various areas, in various industries, and he has certificate, as you see here, and he has knowledge and skills in almost every knowledge area, I would say, from automotive to finance, IT, lean manufacturing, accounting, communication, and so on. So I am a coordinator of this event. If you have questions about organizational topics, please address them to me. And we have a coordinator online as well. Her name is Dina Ivashova. If you have some questions about online broadcast, and if you have just questions to Devan, you can text the questions to Dina, and I will transfer the questions to Devan. One organizational question, or maybe a suggestion. We decided to make a short break, 5-10 minutes break, in 1 hour approximately. And we also discussed how to arrange questions if they come from you. So we decided that please raise your hand, and if you have questions, Devan will be ready to answer them in during his presentation. Yeah, and if questions take too much time to answer, then he will answer later. Okay, thank you again. And with this, I will give the floor to Devan. Welcome.
Thank you. Andre, before I start, there's the whole group of people that's outside. I thought maybe we give them an opportunity to enter and then we start. There's a huge group, so I'm not too sure where they are. Would someone check? Yeah, there's a huge group that wants to join in. I just don't want them to miss out on things that I start. I just thought there was a huge group that wants to come in, so, oh, okay, all right. Just a minute. Maybe they went to sign the register. Sound, testing, testing sound. Is it working? Are we fine? Spasibo. Continue. All right. All right. Thanks a lot, Andre, for that introduction. And thanks to you for attending. I think there's more that's going to be attending. And as Andre said, this presentation is in English and it can't be in Russian because I don't know Russian. All right. So thanks for giving me the opportunity to be here. I think you all know the topic for discussion today. From what I know, it's been planned from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m., but I am flexible with time. We can go later beyond that if you need to. So as Andre said, I come from South Africa. You can see my flag, but I thought I can't have the flag of South Africa only. The Russian flag is there as well. So if I can just proceed. Oh, there we go. All right, you may want to know, who am I? All right, I've just got there a very quick introduction of who I am. I was born and raised in a city of Durban, all right, and I lived in other cities, which are listed there. You heard of Johannesburg, you know of Cape Town, and some other cities. I will show you now the map of South Africa so you can see what I mean. And in my career, I initially started my career in finance. So I'm an accountant by profession. And then about 20 years ago, I moved into the field of project management, managing projects and programs and portfolios. And the past 5 years, I've been managing a PMO, a project management office. So I've got quite an extensive experience in the project management field. The industries I worked at are in the petroleum, that's oil and gas. I've been in banking, I've been in communications. I worked in the automotive sector, the airline in the Middle East, and currently I'm working for a government company. So I've been fortunate enough to have worked in many different industries, and that helps a lot because you can kind of see how things work and how projects are managed differently in different industries. I've done many projects, and my projects range from managing big IT projects, ERP implementations, cost optimization, continuous improvement. I've done many projects in operations and manufacturing, and some big projects up to about 270 million US dollars. Now you may want to know what my hobbies are. I've got it down there. Well, triathlon is my life. I do a lot of swimming and cycling and running, and I love my triathlons. Maybe I don't look like a triathlete, but I am. I grew up playing soccer, and I played semi-professional soccer, but not at the highest level. And I do a lot of mountain climbing, hiking. Traveling is my passion. I love traveling. I love going on vacations. This is my 55th country I'm visiting. All right, so every opportunity I get to travel, I go. So it's great. And the last is what brings me to Russia. You know, why Russia? Okay, as you know, I love traveling. I've been to all the continents, and I thought, now we South Africans, we don't need a visa to visit Russia anymore. So I thought, let me visit Russia. And that's why I'm here. So I am on vacation, and on Sunday, I'm running the 42-kilometer White Nights Marathon in St. Petersburg. And I thought, while I'm here doing the marathon, doing a vacation, let's do something to contribute to the profession as well, right? So I said, I'm in the project management office environment. It's a growing profession, so to speak. I've done similar presentation last year in Vietnam, one in Hanoi and one in Ho Chi Minh City. And I thought I'll do the same thing here in Moscow and next week in St. Petersburg. So, and it's a way to interact and share my knowledge with everyone else. Okay, so I've arrived in Moscow on Saturday, and I tell you, I've been to many big cities and many great cities in this world, but without any lie, this is a fantastic city. It is, I am just, every time I get out into Moscow, I say, wow, this is a beautiful, lovely city. The way things work, so clean, so organized. So well done. It's a city I wouldn't mind living in, put it that way. So I love it. Okay, so great. Okay, so just quick introduction. All right. And now we're in Moscow. It's not written there, but okay, Andre will point to where we are on the map. And where I come from, South Africa, is where I was born and bred. And I will go further into it so you can see it's a big distance. And That's South Africa right at the bottom, and which is right at the bottom of Africa. And if I go into South Africa itself, and you all heard of Johannesburg, all right? Have you all heard of Cape Town? And the other big city is Durban, which is my hometown. And currently I live in a small city called East London. That's where I've been for the past 5 years. So just to give you some orientation in terms of Africa and South Africa and where we are in terms of it is. So has anyone here been to South Africa? No one. All right. So maybe when I come and do another presentation next year or the year after, I'm sure I'll have a lot of people raising their hands. So it's a great country. There's lots to see, right? And I'll show you why in the next slide. All right. All right. Johannesburg is an amazing city, right? What you will see there in terms of infrastructure is what you will see in the big cities of Europe. The roads and freeways that you get in Paris and London don't compare to what you get in Johannesburg. Believe you me, it is a very developed city. And you know of Cape Town, all right? Now, Cape Town is famous for its mountain. It's called Table Mountain. And the reason why it's called Table Mountain is the mountain is flat like a table, all right? So that's one of the most beautiful cities in the world. And Durban, my hometown, beautiful beaches. You can swim in even in winter. The water is warm enough to swim in winter, all right? And I'm sure you all heard of safaris and wildlife in South Africa. We've got the best in the world. So it's another reason to visit South Africa. So I know I'm not here to promote my country, but if you're planning to visit, my details okay? And I'll cover the different types of PMOs, why we have the PMO, okay? There's a reason we have a PMO because there should be benefits from a PMO. Then I will go on to the functions of a PMO, factors to consider when forming a PMO, the implementation plan, okay, the 5 basics when we're implementing a PMO. What are the critical success factors and the additional success factors of a PMO? And you will see there, I've got ELID's project governance structure. Now, what I meant to tell you earlier is that the company I'm currently working at is the East London Industrial Development Zone. So it's short for ELIDS. All right, it's a company that involves in attracting investment. It's an industrial development zone. So a lot of countries in this world have it, whereby it's a huge industrial zone whereby we bring in investment from across the globe, and they put in the companies in there, and we create opportunity and growth for the economy. So I'm not too sure if Russia has something like that, which we call an industrial development zones, where there are special zones within the country that are developed, that are to promote investment. Do you have that? Oh, you do. Okay, all right. So that is the same thing that so when I say ELIDS, it's the company I'm currently working at, and I am currently the PMO head of that organization. So I will talk about the governance structure at ELIDS, and very importantly, the lessons learned at my current PMO, and then we will come to a discussion. So I hope I'm talking slowly enough so that you can understand me, all right? I normally talk faster, but I'm deliberately going slower so that you can get the full benefit of it. I've been told by one of my friends, my Russian friends, that sometimes when they speak to people from England or the United Kingdom, they speak so fast, they don't even know what is being said. So we South Africans sometimes can speak fast, but I prefer to speak slower. All right, so just something about the East London IDZ and myself. I joined the company 5 years ago uh, as to head the project management office. And prior to that, the company had 2 previous attempts to have a project management office. And on both those occasions, it failed. Now, the reasons for them failing, without me compromising my professional ethics, is that the previous people that were employed, one had some qualifications, but not experience in project management enough. And the other was the other way around, had a lot of business knowledge, was from the company, and the company thought, let's put the person to run the PMO, but he didn't know much of project management in terms of theory and experience, and that also failed. So I was employed, and if I'm there for 5 years, I would say it's been a success so far. So, and I'm enjoying it. Okay. All right. The first slide is the relationship between project, program, and portfolio management. Before I go on that, I would like to just get by a show of hands, okay, because this is a PMI event, is there anyone here that's not familiar with PMBOK, Project Management Body of Knowledge? You all know PMBOK, right? Okay, so a lot of the information I have here, right, where I've taken the information from PMBOK, I've acknowledged it so that you are familiar with it, right? And just so that I can understand, is there anyone here that is currently in a PMO environment? I know that you are all like involved in projects or have been, so you know project management. Who is currently in a PMO? Okay, you, one, you, and you. All right, okay. So a lot of people who start off as project managers, they eventually end up becoming into a PMO assistant or a PMO manager. Normally that's where you start up and you migrate. So if any of you project managers have aspirations of becoming a PMO manager, something to consider. It's a different, but you apply project management principles. So I'm sure you will enjoy it. As Andre said, as I go through the presentations, if ever you have any questions, raise your hand, you can ask the question, right? So I would like to keep this as interactive as possible so that I share my knowledge, because I want to keep this very practical, right? So as I go through the information on the slides, I will relate my experience with it. And if you want to share some of your experiences, let's do so and get into a discussion. Because the best way of learning is by sharing information and discussions, okay? Theory is something anyone can get from books and from the internet, so, okay. I'm not gonna read the definition of a portfolio, program, and project management. It's all written in there and you're all familiar with it. It's taken directly from PMBOK, and I've got this pyramid there just to illustrate how it works, okay? Normally, a company will have a lot of projects, okay? There'll always be more projects than programs because you'll get projects sometimes being standalone, and you'll get projects, right, forming a program, okay? And if you need a reminder what a program is, okay, projects, okay? And that's why you will get fewer programs than projects, and ultimately you will get them all forming a portfolio with the definition there. A company can have one portfolio. Often the PMO is regarded to as a portfolio management, or it can have more than one. But often in my experience, projects were just treated as one portfolio. The reason why I'm touching on this here is, and maybe I will come with a question to you as well. In my experience, I've noticed that often we get organizations implementing projects, but they implement projects because it's a nice to have or because someone feels there's a need to have a project. So yeah, I say, I want a project manager, please sign my business case, and it's signed and it's implemented. At huge cost, and it takes time, okay? And I can see some people smiling, and I know why you're smiling. All right, now, and you will see I've got it underlined in green, right? What's important when you do a project is ideally a project should meet at least one of your strategic objectives. In your organization, you've got your vision, you've got your mission, and you've got your objectives, your strategy, right? If a project doesn't meet any of your strategic objectives, normally you should not be doing that, right? Because think about it. Your strategy is basically feeding to your mission, which feeds your mission, right? If you are doing something that doesn't tie into your strategy, you would normally not do it. When I say normally, the exception that I know of is if it doesn't tie into your strategy, you would do it only if it's a compliance issue. Now, what I mean by the compliance is, say the government has now passed a new law, right? Now, for you, right, to conform to that law, right, you need to now do a project. Maybe it's implement a system, an IT system. It's got nothing to do with your strategic objectives, but you need to do it because you need to comply with some government law. That is the exception you would do, right, to implement a project that doesn't meet your objectives, okay? Normally, right, so what I've done in my PMO is I've done a business case template. Now, if anyone wants the project to be done, they need to do the business case. And one part of the business case is, tell me, how does that project tie into our strategic objectives? If it doesn't tie to any of our strategic objectives, it's normally not passed for implementation. And in the business case, I, as the head of the PMO, I am one of the signatories. The way it works is the person who wants it, the project, the divisional manager, I send it after that to the CFO, right? Because the CFO would look at the numbers and it's signed. Then it comes to me where I go to the entire business case, I approve it or reject it, and then it goes to the CEO, the head of the organization. Only then is the project allowed to continue. Okay, so the question is, do any of you have situations whereby you've come across projects in your organization that were just implemented without it being, you know, part of your strategy? Can any of you remember? You? Sorry.
Introduce myself. My name is Anastasia. I'm from Kazan, GDC Russia, Fujitsu part. So actually, we have two types of project activities. So we have strategic projects, and we have projects that we have to develop for our customers. So basically, we don't have vision on strategy in customer environment. So we just need to implement the project.
Okay.
Just do it, and that's it. So
okay.
It's our situation, and that's case for.
Okay, a question. Do you have like a business case that people fill complete before they implement the project?
So actually, for part of projects, yes, for very complex projects, but for regular, simple and medium complex projects, so actually we don't have this business case. We didn't have. So now we started activity to add this part in the PID document and to focus on it.
All right. Okay. So maybe something to consider, seeing that you're in the PMO, is that when you develop a business case, you can have one section that talks of strategic alignment. All right. And then you say, okay, my details are at the end. So you're welcome, not you, all of you, to contact me for any information you need, and I can assist you with it in terms of how that should be configured in your business case.
Thank you.
Welcome. All right. Okay. Anyone else here wants to share some of the experiences in terms of projects and that's not aligned or aligned to the strategies? Do you have situations whereby projects are just implemented because someone wants it? Or you can't say? You in PMO, you don't know. Okay, all right. But give that a thought, right? I mean, because what am I saying? What I'm saying, does that make sense, right? Because imagine now, we have a company, right? Or we have an academy, right? That's a football academy. Okay, what would a football academy do? All right, right? Build football facilities, coaching, training facilities. Now imagine if we implement a project, right, that says we will now build. Are you guys familiar with rugby? Not rugby. You're familiar with basketball? Right. Imagine if our academy says we're now going to build a basketball field. Maybe that doesn't tie into our strategy, right? Because we want football. So just the last thing on this here, and it's a very, very important point, okay? When it comes to portfolio, right? The idea about there is to do the right things, okay? I'm going to play with some words in English. To do the right thing. And when you decide to do the right thing, then you do them right. I'm going to repeat that. When you decide to do the right thing, what I mean by the right thing, it ties into your strategy. You're doing the right thing. Once you decide to do a project, then you do them right. Okay? It's no use me doing a wrong project, like a basketball field, and doing the project well. It doesn't make sense because it doesn't tie into our strategy. So that is the difference between portfolio and project management. Doing the right thing first, choosing the right projects, and then you do them right. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, all right. Any questions on this? None. All right, thank you. Now the next slide is going to touch on what is a PMO. I think a lot of people know of PMOs. Some of you are in PMOs, but a lot of you in the project management field, but don't have much interaction with PMOs itself. All right, so a PMO is a department or a unit within an organization that defines and maintains the project management standards across the organization. And I'm going to go through it in more detail. What I've got there is basically exactly everything that applies to my current PMO. So I've put in a very, very practical element to this entire presentation. It also standardizes the project governance processes. Now, when I say project governance, should I explain it or do you all understand what project governance is? Should you understand it? Can I explain it? All right. Project governance, and this is a very, very important part of a PMO or any project management for that matter, is how projects should be managed and how should they be reported on. Because normally when you do a project, it shouldn't just lie there. Someone needs to know how the project is performing, okay? And if it belongs to a program, someone needs to know how the program is performing. And if it belongs to a portfolio, someone needs to know how the portfolio is performing. I will come on and touch on it later on, where I have a slide to show you how project governance is done at Illits, at the current company. That will make more sense when I come to it, okay? So that's what one of the things that PMO does. It creates a knowledge base with lessons learned from past projects. Something I love, lessons learned, right? So when you do projects, you are doing things right and you are doing things wrong. You always, it happens to everyone, right? Now, when we do those things, we need to record lessons, okay? Now, That is something that I focus a lot on in my current organization. I make sure that all the projects have a lessons learned. There's a template that I've developed, and you record all the lessons you learn on the projects. Now, does anyone here focus on lessons learned in their current job or current position? No, you do, all right, okay. And you, all right, so 2, 3 of you, but a lot. This is one of the most important aspects of project management, and I'll tell you why I say that, right? Here we implement a project, a lot of things go wrong, and there are things that go right as well. Then we implement another project that's very similar to what we've implemented last time. When we implement the next project, right, there's a lot of things that went wrong here that we repeat here, the same mistakes, okay? Have we seen that happen in practice? We have, right? And I know why you're smiling. It happens across the world all the time. Why that happens? Because people have forgotten to record the lessons that they learned from previous projects. You implement, and I'll give an example. A system, a lot of things went wrong. No one records it. You implement another system, a lot of things went wrong. There are also things that went right. Now you implement another one, we learned nothing from there. But when you record those lessons, before you start the next project or during the project, you want to look at the lessons you learned from past projects so that the problems you experience in those projects, you don't want to repeat in this project. That is why it's important to have those lessons learned database. And whatever things you did well in these previous projects, if you recorded them, you will now try and repeat them in the new project. So that's one of the reasons why we would do in a PMO. We would also monitor project performance, summarizes and reports this to senior management. So at Elids, what I would do is get all the performances of the projects from the various project managers. I would consolidate it on a monthly basis, and I would report to senior management. I will show you in our governance structure later how that is done. That'll make more sense when you see the diagram on it. Train and coach the internal project management community. I, as the PMO head, what I do is that there's a lot of project managers managing projects. So I continuously am doing training to the project management community. What I mean by project management community, the different project managers and their project staff. So what I would do is, at times during the year, I would arrange various formal sessions like this, whereby I will talk of various aspects of project management. I will have a session on scope management, lessons learned, right? Risk management, issue management, quality management, and so on. So all those, I will have those training sessions. And I would also do informal training whereby I would sit with them, either if you a PM and you got your staff, I will sit with you at times and upskill you in terms of what you should be focusing in on a project. And because people leave and new people join, the training will have to continue, right? So that's one of the things a PMO would need to do. Now, a PMO would usually align itself with the principles and processes dictated by global industry standards. You all know PMBOK from PMI and or Prince2, which is the UK equivalent of PMBOK. And is anyone familiar with Prince2? You. Okay, is anyone? Oh, great. So we got PMBOK and Prince2. That's nice. All right, okay. And is anyone Prince2 certified? No, okay, all right. Okay, and for those who are not familiar with it, I've got it in brackets what Prince stands for. Okay, so it's projects in controlled environments. So that is the acronym for that. I don't want to focus too much, but if you want to know the difference between the two, and I'm sure you would like to know the difference, PMBOK is exactly what it says, a BOK, a body of knowledge. Prince2 is not a body of knowledge, is not exhaustive. It's a set methodology of how a project should be run. It says, this is what you should be doing and how you should be doing it. But the beauty of it, of both those standards is you can tailor, you can alter the methodologies the way you want to suit your project environment. No two project environments are the same. Even if you're in the same industry, right, and very similar companies, your project environment is different. So whatever you do, alter it to suit your project environment. I cannot go into another company and say, this is how you must do project management, and this is how the project management office is going to work. I need to understand the environment before I implement something there, because that environment is different to where I come from. That is something very important to remember. Every environment is different. So don't take whatever you had somewhere else and just try and implement it somewhere else. The understanding of the environment is important. Now at Elids, what I've done, because I'm very familiar with both PMBOK and Prince2, being PMP and Prince2 certified, I said, I'm not going to align my methodology to either one of them. I'm going to take the best of both and make it mine. It's like you doing a dissertation or a thesis. What do? You consult various resources, books, and so on. You take what you want and you make it your own. That's exactly what I did. So I use what we call in English a hybrid of the two. Okay, so it's very simple. I kept it simple simply because I want things to work. So it's easier to do less that works than doing too much. And project managers have too much to do, and they focus more on doing documentation than actually making the project a success. Any questions on this slide? None. Please, just feel free. Did I? Sorry, you got a message? Sorry. All right. All right. I hope I got my message across with that slide. Okay. The next one is, when it comes to PMOs, there's different types of PMOs. Now, what you see there, there's three, is exactly as you will see it in PMBOK. Now, there are more types of PMOs than that. But for the purposes of this presentation, I just want to keep it to what PMBOK says, and I'm going to go to them very quickly. There's a supporting role. There's a supporting type of PMO where you will just provide a consultative role to projects, right? Meaning that the PMO has a very low control over the projects, okay? The second one is the controlling type, right? It's a moderate control that we have over projects, and I'm going to come back to that now. And then we would have the third one, which is the directive, where the PMO takes control of the projects, right? So in some organizations, a PMO, all projects belong to the PMO. So the PMO owns all the projects, and within them, they have lots of project managers. So if operations or ICT or IT wants a project to be done, it goes to PMO. I'm talking of the directive one, and PMO will now decide, okay, I'm going to allocate this resource and that resource to do this project, because the project managers report into the PMO. Okay, so that's what a directive is. So I'm gonna, okay, I'll come back to the bottom. The primary function of a PMO, this is important to understand, is to support the project managers in the successful implementation of projects. Think of it now. Wherever the projects are in the organization, whether they belong to the units, right? A PMO, as I said earlier, it does training, it does coaching, and so on. It needs to support the project managers to deliver successful projects. In my case, right, I've got it in my Pmo Charter, right? And I will show you an example of it later on, that the success of the PMO will be determined by the success of the projects. So if you are all project managers in my organization at Elids, and if your projects are failing, that means I am failing. And I've got it there in my charter. I said the success of the PMO will be based on the success of the projects within the organization. So the PMO needs to know how successful the projects are being done. If it's not, then there's something that we need to do, and maybe we need to reconsider how we are managing our PMO, okay? At Elids, we've got more of the middle one, the controlling type, meaning I don't have project managers in my PMO. They belong to the different units. So in IT, they got project managers, right, who now report to the IT head. And operations or building, they've got many project managers who reports to the operations unit head. So it belongs there. So what I do is that I take a fairly moderate control over the projects. I guide the project managers, get feedback from them in terms of how the projects are performing. I assess the projects in terms of risk, in terms of issues, in terms of change, in terms of scope management, in terms of cost management, in terms of time management. So when I assess a project in terms of how it's performing, I will give the project manager feedback and assist the project managers in delivering successful projects. That is my purpose, to ensure that projects succeed within the organization. But let's think about it. If projects are not succeeding, that means, it doesn't mean that the PMO is doing a bad job, but it's a concern for the PMO because the direction comes from the PMO itself, because the PMO is establishing the governance, it's establishing the processes, how projects should be done, and it's establishing the project templates. So it must do everything to support the project managers to deliver successful projects. Any questions on this? Yes.
You know, do you hear me? Okay. In a very huge organization, is it okay to have several PMOs, like one controlling the global one and some like supporting? For example, when we have a separate team of cost estimators, can it be called as a PMO?
Yes, you can. There are instances and organizations where there's different PMOs, and I know of some huge multinationals that have multiple PMOs. It is possible, yes, and it all depends how they configure, right? Because sometimes this PMO within a big IT department, and they will have their own processes, okay? Because it's dealing with IT projects. And then there's a PMO that deals with buildings, infrastructure, and they will have their own, right? So it's not that it's a bad idea, but it's how it's managed that's important. Eventually, you want projects to be successful within those respective PMOs.
Okay. One more question. What is the best option for controlling PMO to realize its power over project managers?
What is the?
I mean, when controlling PMO understands that projects are failing, what is the best way to influence project managers?
Yeah. The best way to influence project managers is to define success criteria for the projects, right? What are normal success criteria for a projects? If you deliver a project on time, within budget and within scope, at a defined quality. So if your project meets the timelines, if it meets the cost, if it meets the scope, you've implemented what you're supposed to do, and if you've done it in a reasonable quality, then your project is successful. So that is what the PMO should do in terms of ensuring that projects are measured in terms of those success criteria. Once project managers understand what the success criteria are, then they will know they need to focus on those success criteria to deliver successful projects. Did I answer you?
I mean, the project manager is responsible for everything
Correct.
concerning the project.
Correct. Correct.
But I mean, if the PMO, if some metrics are not okay for them, but these metrics are okay for the project manager, which power can be realized over the project manager?
Okay, all right. I know where you're going to. All right. In a controlling type, right? You're talking of that, right? Okay. The power that you have is people need to understand the roles and responsibilities, right? Within the project governance, what are the roles? What is the role of the project manager? And it needs to be understood what is the role of the project sponsor. Because remember, the project manager is responsible for the project. And the project manager reports to what we call a project sponsor, right? Is it a term that you use here? Okay, right? And the project sponsor is accountable for the successful delivery of the project. So, project manager, responsible, and the ultimate accountability rests with the project sponsor. Because what happens when the project manager is delivering the project, right? He or she has always issues, something that needs some decisions. When it cannot be resolved, the project manager escalates it to the project sponsor, who will then make decisions and guide the project manager in terms of what to do. So it's important to define the roles and responsibilities in your project charter for each project as to what are the roles and responsibilities of the project manager and the project sponsor and the other project staff. Okay, and that leads me to a question. How many of you do project charters for your project, whereby you define, a project charter is basically, it's like a Bible of a project, right? What is the project all about? What is the business need? What are the business benefits? And you will define as well the deliverables, and you will define the roles and responsibilities. So do you all do project charters for your projects? Not. You do. All right. Some of you do. Okay. So for those who don't, I think it's a very important thing to have. It's actually one of the PMBOK says you should have a project charter. Sorry, go ahead.
I think that in our practice is not problem to make a project charter. It's a problem to measure the value of project output outside the project.
Okay, all right, yeah, that often is a problem to measure it. So that, yes. All right, okay. Now
I make write in project chapter everything I want.
Okay, all right.
But I may prove this.
Okay.
I want to add what is important, stakeholders or sponsors or all people that are interested.
Say that louder.
Louder, okay. It is very important to have project charter because all of people, those stakeholders, those who are interested in the results, they always say, no, we are not agree with this result, but we want these results. And this is a process of agreement, improvement of these results at the beginning of this project. We have even before to develop this project charter, the process, we call it press release before project starts. This process negotiations with stakeholders, with sponsor, and very important mm, directors, like line directors, analytics,
Yeah.
development, and testers.
Okay, all right. So just so that we understand the discussion correctly, are we saying that sometimes when the project is delivered, that is the end of it, and we don't go back to it? Is it? Right, so after we close the project, no one looks at it after that. Okay, right. So that's not what I do in my organization, all right. What we do at Elids is you do the project, you initiate, you plan, you execute, and you close. After closing the project, in terms of my project methodology that I've implemented is, I've got another step after project closure, which is benefits management. Are you all familiar with benefits management? Correct. Yes, yes. So what I do there is that in terms of my project methodology, in the?
You didn't wrote this in the previous slide, in the function of project management office.
Yes.
You didn't wrote this. Why?
Sorry, just repeat that.
You didn't wrote this thesis on the previous slide in the function of project management office.
Don't know. Oh, okay. All right. Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. Thanks for that. So in my PMO, what I do is that after a project is closed, we perform what we call benefits management or benefits realization. Okay. So if the project said, right, you're going to deliver this and that and that, once you close a project, if you don't verify or test that this has been done, you don't know, right? So it's important to do what we call benefits management or benefits realization. Depending on the nature and the size of the project, right? If I can say a project starts here and ends there, right? Sometimes the benefits management is done after project closure. Depending on the size and the nature of the project, we would do it at different times of the project, right? How we would do that? We would go back to the business case and say, these were the deliverables. Are we on track in delivering those deliverables? And if it's not, we need to have some checkpoints. Why are we not on track? Because if it's a huge project that's going over 3 years or 5 years, you don't want to wait till the end and then test the benefits because it may be too late. If you realize that the benefits is an issue during the project, you want to take note of it then and make your changes accordingly. Okay. All right, thanks for that. And if I can just move to the next slide, why have a PMO? I'm going to go through this very quickly. I'm not too sure how we're doing for time. Okay, so I think we're running behind time. Very quickly, when we have a PMO, there's going to be benefits. You're not going to implement a PMO just for the sake of it or because someone wants it. There has to be some benefits of it. It's like when you do a project, there must be benefits to a project, okay? I'll just go through them. Why we have a PMO / the benefits to prevent project or business initiative failure. PMO, as I mentioned earlier, we support the project managers, right? So to prevent project failure, to increase project management capability and ensure project consistency. How we increase project management capability? By doing the training and the coaching of the project management, okay? To assist in selecting the right projects. Now, sometimes, remember I mentioned the business case? I would always recommend that depending on your project environment, the business case goes to the PMO for verification and maybe signature, like it happens at Elids, okay? So if I see that a project is not going to assist the company in any way and doesn't tie into our strategic objectives, I'm not going to really support it. So we assist in selecting the right projects. The PMO would also, within an organization, projects are becoming more diverse. Those of you who've been in projects for a long time, previously, projects were normally within an ICT environment or in IT environment, or if you're doing construction work, okay? Now, usually 20 years ago, projects were mainly in those areas. Now, you will get projects being done in different parts of an organization. You get finance projects, you get operations projects, you get various. So projects are becoming a lot more diverse. And that's why a PMO is there to support the different projects within an organization, to assist in change management. This is another important part to change management. Now, in a business, in an organization, things continue as normal. Business happens. And what happens when you introduce a project? A project introduces some change. Think about it. Business as normal, and then suddenly a project is introduced. There's some change that's happening, and that's where we need to assist in change management. Okay? I want to just show you the difference between change management and change control. There's two different things, and a lot of people get confused between change management and change control. Change control is when you do a project, there's changes, you will need to get authorization for any changes in the project. That's change control. Change management is when you introduce a project, there's some kind of change happening, right, within an organization. How do you manage that change? Because now people are faced with something new. Imagine you implement a system, a new system, and you don't manage a change properly. People will say, I don't want to use a system. I don't know it. I haven't been trained. So you need to manage that change. So that's change management, which is different to change control. To improve project maturity within an organization, when I started at Alerts, most people or project managers didn't know project management. They didn't know PMBOK, they didn't know Prince2. Basically, they were managing projects before, but didn't know how to manage cost and time and quality and scope. So now, right, so basically project management maturity is meaning how well your projects are being managed within an organization. Normally there's a level of 1 to 5, right? Where level 1 is a very low level of managing projects. People don't really know how to manage projects. So when I joined, it was at level 1. And because of the training and coaching of the project management community, it's now sitting at a level 3. Obviously, over time, I want to bring that higher. So to increase project management maturity, to provide status reports, dashboards, project managers as a PMO, I collect all the information from the various managers. From a system, it's there already. I will do some dashboards in terms of project management and report to senior management. So basically, I consolidate all the project information and report to senior management. To assist, sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
Quick question. What type of system to collect and create these dashboards do you use in your company?
What systems I use? Yeah. At the moment, we implementing a system, right? A project management module, right? It was meant to be implemented some time ago, but there was some delay in terms of a contract with the service provider. At the moment, it's being done on Excel spreadsheets. Okay, I know why you're smiling. It's so. It is. It is. When you have it's on Excel spreadsheets and Word documents, you're going to try and consolidate it, and it just takes more time. But hopefully in a few months' time, we're going to be moving into a system. So I will be able to pull out reports directly from the system, and the top managers can pull out reports from the system itself. So anyone here still using a lot of spreadsheets? I think you still, right? Okay, so normally that's where it starts, but ideally, that's not the right way to work, right? If you can get a system, a project management module, right, to work for you, implement a system. It's not very expensive, right? So a database is always much better than using spreadsheets. Different projects are following different methodologies and templates. Sometimes, I think some of you have got the experience of different projects because they're in different parts of the company. You are following your methodology and templates. You are following your methodology and templates. a PMO now makes it standard. What you do, how you do a project is the same as everyone else because there's a standard to follow.
Yeah, Devan, there is one question from a participant online. Her name is Ekaterina Nazarova.
Yes.
Question is PMO responsible to develop PMIS IT system in bracket to assist in managing projects?
To develop what?
Project management information system to assist in managing projects.
Yeah, that's a nice question. Thank you for that. I would say yes. A PMO is there as a guiding light, right, to guide the project management community. So if there's no system, project management information system, PMIS, the PMO should be the one that drives the PMIS, the implementation of it, okay? It may be implemented and driven by the IT staff because it's an IT project, but the PMO should be the owner of the system. Because in my case, right, I, as a PMO, I am the owner of the project management information system. The module, the system I'm talking of that's currently being implemented, I am the owner. So I'm taking responsibility for the implementation of the system. So I will define the scope of what's required and how we want it. Of course, I will get information from other people, but I'm taking the ownership of it because eventually I'm going to be using the system as well as other senior management. Yes.
Yeah, one more question from Nina Babalova. How many projects do you have in your company?
At the moment, we've got about 60 or 65 projects. A lot of them are construction projects. Remember I said we are an industrial development zone, right? So a lot of building that's happening and we have a lot of IT projects as well, okay? That's the bulk of the projects. So there's about 60 to 65 projects that's happening. Why I'm saying 60 to 65, there's new projects coming in and there's projects being closed at the moment. Okay, thanks. Okay, now I have developed a Pmo Charter and I've got an example of it later on. All the above, all the points that you've seen there are included in my Pmo Charter so that anyone across the company, they know the purpose of having a PMO, why we are there, because it needs to create benefits for the company. All right. Next one, functions of a PMO. So basically, what does a PMO do? All right. We provide support and guidance to project managers in project implementation. I've covered this before, supporting them in terms of how to do projects. To introduce the right process and suitable methodology aimed at developing acceptable standards. As I mentioned, I've developed a project methodology from the time of initiation to closing to benefits management. Sorry.
Yeah, one more question, if you don't mind,
Sure.
Devan. Again, from Nina Babalova. Did I get you right that now you don't have an IT system for managing projects? What about schedule management, in brackets, Primavera, MS project, etc.?
Yeah, correct. We don't have a system, correct? Now, for project scheduling, we use MS projects. So every project manager, right, has been trained on using Microsoft projects. So all the scheduling is done using system, which should be in a few months' time. That is a Microsoft-based system and Microsoft scheduling, MS projects. Because it's a Microsoft tool, we'll just import the MS projects into the project. So it will be done within MS projects itself. Okay. Design training programs to prepare the team members to efficiently perform the assigned tasks. Again, I touched earlier what we do, training. This is something that should not be underestimated, training and training and training. Reasons why I say that. I may do a training now to all your project managers on, say, risk management or scope management. Over time, you're not going to remember everything. You always need refresher courses, right? Secondly, people leave the organization and new people come in. So they still need to train, right? So the training is something that happens all the time that should not be underestimated. Formal training like a classroom and informal training one-on-one. Sometimes, and very often I do this, I will get a project manager who I know is a bit weak in a certain area. I will call him to my office and say, let's go through this here. I want to spend half an hour or 1 hour with you and I want to discuss it. I'll go through the methodology and processes and make the person understand that section, and so that the understanding of what needs to be delivered is now better. So that is something that should be concentrated a lot in your organization. While I'm there, a question to you. Is there anyone here that feels there's not enough training, project management training in your organization that should be? A lot of you. All right. Okay. All right. Okay. I'm not surprised that is normally the case, but it's something that you need to raise and escalate to your respective managers. If you have a PMO, engage the PMO, because the PMO is the one that should know where the gaps are and how to perform the training. Either if the PMO is strong enough to deliver the training, they can do it themselves. Sometimes it's not. Then they would need to get someone from outside. And maybe get them, someone from outside, to do certain parts of project management, right? Maybe, for example, if I am not strong in, say, risk management, I may get an outside service provider to come in and do risk management training. So just try and see where there are gaps and try and close those gaps. Yes.
How often in your practice there is situation when people came to your project management office and asked to do something in project? I mean, they have no practice, they have no knowledge, and they came to you and asked you, help us please, do something.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. What I will do is, I would do a, if it's someone, I would do a one-on-one session with them. I would call them into my office and we'd go through what the project methodology is, all the steps from initiation right through to closing and post-closing benefits, all the things that needs to be done. And I will take them through all the project templates, right? Okay. There's a risk management template. There's a business case template at the beginning. There's an issue management template. There's a change control template. And there's a project reporting, how you report on your projects. So there's various project templates to complete. So I would take them through the methodology, what needs to be done, the steps. I don't have a slide here, but I should have put it, and the templates. That doesn't mean they will know what to do when they start a project. You would need to retrain them again, and sometime when they're unsure, they will need to come back to you, and you will continuously doing that. So it happens a lot. I do spend a lot of time, right, doing informal training and coaching, like as you mentioned. Okay. Introduce and oversee the use of appropriate software tools. There was a question, right, earlier in terms of PMIs, Project Management Information System. That's the tool we're talking about now, right? We are the owners of that tool, that software tool, and everything should work, because if it's not working, the project managers are going to get frustrated, okay? And if there's any changes, we need to make the right changes in consultation with the project managers and train them on that as well. So we oversee the use of appropriate tools, because we, the PMO, is the owner of the tool, that software tool. Establish benefits management. Such that project benefits are a key focus area. Remember I spoke earlier about project benefits? It's one area that is often, and I'm saying often, not just in South Africa, probably not just in Russia, across the globe. And I interact with my project management colleagues across the globe on on a regular basis, almost on a daily basis. That's one area, benefits management, that is very, very poorly managed or implemented across the globe. All right. Maybe when I come again to Russia, I can do a presentation on benefits management. A lot of companies don't focus on benefits management. We touch on it, you close the project, and that's it. And that should not be the case, okay? Now imagine, I want to spend a minute on that. We implement an ERP system, right? A big ERP system. Took us 3 years to implement it. We don't do benefits management. How do we know it's delivering what it's supposed to deliver, okay? When we do benefits management, yes, the business case said and the scope, you're going to be doing this, and deliver that. We're going to test that it has delivered it, right? Otherwise, it's a failure. But sometimes the benefits are not seen immediately after the project closure. Sometimes it can be taken, it can only be seen later on, right? Because you want to see the benefits, or you can only see the benefits later on. So you're going to determine when you planning your benefits management, when you're going to do it during the project and when you're going to do it after the project. Sometimes you will do it immediately after a project. Then you will do it maybe 3 months or 6 months again to check the benefits that was mentioned in the business case are being delivered or on track to being delivered. Am I making sense there? All right. Is there anyone here that has whose company is strong on benefits management? Doing what I'm saying is none. All right. So it is also a concern here as well. That's exactly what I mentioned. It's one area that's very, very poorly managed across many countries. So something to consider. Yes.
We have some companies that have strong benefits management, but not all departments in these companies do it good. Some of them works perfect and about their benefits know all the country. Some of them are pretty.
It's true. Yeah.
And it's in one company and in two companies. I mean, it's not a rare situation.
Okay. All right. So you're saying some do it well and some don't.
Yes. We have some companies that have benefits
yes.
management pretty nice.
Correct.
I know them.
Yes. Correct. Yes.
Yeah. There are two messages online. So first is a comment from Tanya Milik. She says, we always do benefits management measure at the closing stage.
Okay.
So, and second, a question, yeah? How big is your PMO team?
My PMO team is not very huge. It's myself and there's 2 other staff members. Okay. I do focus a lot on training, but because now I've got the project methodology pretty well understood by the project managers, and I've got my project templates that are now pretty well understood by the project managers and their staff, they kind of know what is expected of them, all right? I don't change things too much. I just change where I feel I need to change just to make things better. So as the project maturity increases, meaning project maturity, where they can do projects better, then it makes my life a bit easier. So maybe 2 years ago, you didn't know much about project management. I was spending a lot of time on you. But because of the training and coaching, now you understand project management fairly well. You know how to do a project. You're not taking a lot of my time. So the question, myself plus 2 other people. Okay, and to support strategic governance and senior stakeholder engagement through management reporting, okay? So what you would do, consolidate the performance of the projects into a reporting dashboard, and you present that to senior management. Again, I've got a slide later on that will show you how it is done at Elites. Okay. Factors to consider when PMO. It's getting more interesting now. When you are forming a PMO, absolutely crucial. You show what your vision is, what your mission, and what are your values. It's like in your organization, right? Your company will have its vision, it has its mission, and it has values. The same thing when you're forming a PMO, you need to define in your project charter, what is your vision, what is your mission, and what is your vision. So, so I've got the comment at the bottom. All the above should be contained in your PMO charter. The contents page of the ELIDZ charter is shown on the next slide. So I've developed a PMO charter, okay, and that defines a lot of how the PMO will work within ELIDZ. On the next slide, that is the contents page of my PMO charter, okay? Because it's about a 20-page document, okay? I can see a lot of you are interested in that slide, which is good. Do you like it? All right, okay. That is what I've covered in my PMO charter. So this is available to everyone within the organization, so they know what a PMO within ELIDZ is all about. I've got my vision, my mission, my values, point number 6, project success. Under project success, what I've got there is, I mentioned earlier, the success of the PMO will be determined by the success of the projects within the organization. The more successful projects are, the more successful the PMO is. Does it make sense? Okay. Okay. I've got the PMO objectives and success factors, my stakeholders. What are the expected benefits of the PMO within the organization? Then implementation plan. PMO as a training provider. How are we going to be training, and what will we be training on? Resource planning and resource requirements. And I don't know what happened there, but I've also got a section on roles and responsibilities. The roles and responsibilities of the PMO, right, the head. Okay, I've got the PMO sponsor. I'll come to you now. PMO sponsor in my organization is the CEO. He was the one who wanted this PMO, and I, as the head of the PMO, if anything I want in terms of funding or support, I go to the CEO. So he is my sponsor. And I've got the support staff, their responsibilities as well, right? My support staff, right? You have a question. Okay, maybe you can.
Point 83. So what the Pmo is not.
Sorry.
Point 83. What the Pmo is not.
I was going to come to that. Thank you. Very important. And I've got it written down. When you're doing your PMO charter, also state what the PMO is not. Okay? Because when you create a PMO, the company, all the project managers think that now you are everything. You will do the projects for them. You will do the reporting for them. You will do everything for them. Now, based on what type of PMO you got, it'll depend what you put in, what your PMO is not. Okay? Because if you have a directive, that means you are doing projects, right? But in my case, I've got a controlling. Projects are not done within the PMO. We're not responsible for them. So in my charter, I've got there what the PMO is not. The PMO is not, okay, there to implement projects or be responsible for delivering projects. That rests with the project managers within the units. So that is in my charter. So people understand that I'm not responsible for the successful delivery of the projects. You as the PM, project manager, sitting within your units or your divisions are responsible for it, okay? I also got there as well we will not be the police or polizei, right, to look at project documentation. I'm not going to go there to you, project manager, why you didn't do this? Why you didn't do this? Where's your risk register? Where's that? It's there. You should be able to comply, okay? I'm there to guide you in completing it, okay? But it's not to police and say, you are not doing this and now I'm going to report you to your project sponsor. I must guide you and support you so that you see the benefit of completing the project documentation and project templates. So support and guidance, but not a police, all right? So, okay. I've got the responsibility of resourcing lies with the PM. I'll come to you now, Andre. Resourcing meaning the project resources. Whatever resources the project requires will be the responsibility of the project manager. If you need human resources, assistance, if you need some system to support you, if you need a consultant, you must be the one that determines what's required and not expect me to do it because you are the project manager, you take responsibility, you need to know what you require, what resources you require to deliver a successful project. It's not on me. So that is what I got under 8.3, what a PMO is not. So when you're doing a project charter, make sure you put that in your project charter. It's clear so that the people in your company know what you're going to be doing, okay, and what you are not responsible for. Andre?
One question from myself.
Oh, yes.
I think we will not do a break, yeah? Taking into account that we start later, yeah?
Okay,
okay.
Fine.
And a question from online, yeah? From Ekaterina Nazarova. Does PMO replace portfolio manager, in your case, in elites?
It's seen as the same thing at elites. It's the position is called portfolio manager, but it's the same thing as a PMO. So I basically run the portfolio of projects from a high level point of view. And to answer the question, yes, it's seen as one and the same thing within elites. Correct. Okay, so yes, the next question.
In this charter, there is nothing about the risks. And I see a huge global risk that project managers are not supportive to a new PMO. Because if there is no PMO in the organization, then project managers can have some not corruption, but they may be corrupted and
Okay.
they make their own benefits.
Okay, so if I understood you, is that if there's no PMO, the project managers may not follow a proper procedures. Okay, that is very much the case. That is often the case. And if I look at elites, right, before I came in and started the PMO, there was no methodology, there were no templates. People didn't even understand basic project terminology and methodology. So one of the big benefits, and I've shown it in the slide before, right, is to create a standard methodology and templates. So that is a huge risk, right, to an organization. If there's a lot of projects being done in an organization, it's a huge risk if you don't have a PMO, right? But it must make sense to have a PMO. If it's a small company of 20 people, maybe there's no need for a PMO, right? But depending on the size of the organization, the complexity and the need for a PMO, you will need to consider your PMO. But when you're doing that, if you want a PMO, get the support of top management. Some of you, many of you are project managers with no PMOs in your organization. If you feel there's a PMO, engage top management. And I say top management, the unit managers, depending on the size of your organization, and sometimes the CEO. When you get the support of the top management for a PMO, then it's most likely going to succeed because they are driving it. Like in my case, the CEO wanted, right, the PMO. So anything I wanted, I got him, and anything that that wasn't working within the organization, because he's got a stronger voice than me, I told him, please, I want you to do this here. I want you to say this here. And when he says that to the company, people will do it. Sometimes when I say it, they may not do it, especially if it's the divisional managers. But when he says it, it's done. So get the support of the top management. It'll work. It should work. All right. So something to remember. Yes, Andre.
Yeah, one more question from online, from Vera. I understood that your boss is CEO.
Yes.
Why not a strategic director?
Because we have a small organization and it's a very flat organization. It's just a CEO, we have executive managers, and we have managers. So we don't have a very strong hierarchy. So just to get some independence, I report to the CEO and not to any of the divisional managers. And something that needs to be considered is when you're forming a PMO, be very careful as to where the PMO reports to. If it has to report to, say, for example, the IT head, what happens? People will think it's all regarding IT projects. And someone else from another unit may not be respecting you the way it should be because you are now belonging to IT. But when you're belonging somewhere there and you're having the support of the CEO, then you are a lot stronger within the organization. Okay, so I think a lot of you are sort of taking photos of that, so it looks like something that you're going to consider in your Pmo Charter. All right. As I mentioned earlier, there's one thing that's not in there, but it's in my charter, roles and responsibilities of the PMO head, the PMO sponsor, and your PMO staff. So that's very important. Now, how are we doing for time? Okay, quickly. The PMO implementation plan. Now, we're coming, how do we implement a PMO? Okay. When you're doing a PMO implementation, treat it as a project. The way you would do a normal project, okay? It's projectized. Firstly, okay, when you want to implement a PMO, you ask yourself, what is the current state assessment? Where are we now? How is the organization doing, right? When you do that, you need to ask yourselves a few questions. How many projects do we have today and how are they being managed? Are the results satisfactory? Meaning, are projects failing? Are projects succeeding? Okay? Do we really need a PMO? Is it a nice to have, or based on how projects are succeeding or failing, do we need one? All right? And if you do, what type of PMO? Remember the 3 types I mentioned, and there could be more. You got to ask yourselves those questions. At every point in time when it comes to implementation plan, it's all about questions. When you ask yourself questions, you're going to get the right answers. All right? A lot of questions. After that, the next stage is, and the 5-step plan is, what would you like to see the future, right? Your future state vision. You are here now. You've assessed where you are and where you want to be. Where you want to be, what you're going to do. How you know where you're going to be? Only by asking yourselves questions. And the questions, what functions will be performed with a PMO? What are my previous slides? Functions of a PMO? That's what you would focus on. What results do we expect from the implementation? Implementation of the PMO. What results is project's going to be succeeding. People are going to be well trained. The company is going to be losing less money because the more projects fail, the more money the organization loses. Right, so before I go to the next slide, we've got where we are now, we've got where we want to be. What would be the next step? I'm going to come to you. We know where we are. We know where we want to be. What is the next step? The gap analysis. Right? There's a gap. We are here, but we want to be there. So there's a gap. Question is, how do we fill the gap? How do we fill the gap again? By asking questions. The questions we ask are, what do we have right now in terms of project governance, methodology, infrastructure, human resources, and software? Maybe we don't have project governance. Maybe we don't have a software, right? Maybe we don't have a methodology. Or we could have different methodologies. Different project managers are following different methodologies. What do we need to implement in a PMO that delivers the expected results? What are expected results? Projects within budget, within the timelines, within scope, and within certain quality criteria that you defined, okay? And how are we going to handle change management, stakeholder expectations, and cultural aspects? How are we going to handle change management? Remember, you're implementing a PMO. You're going to now standardize methodology and templates. People have been doing their own things before. Now you are introducing some change. How are you going to manage that change management? Okay? And your stakeholders, the CEO and the top management and project managers, they are your stakeholders. They are expecting now, you've implemented a PMO, they got expectations. How are you going to manage that? Okay? Cultural aspects, if you're in an organization where you have different cultures, be different cultures from different, maybe you're an international company, say there's a German company here or an American company, there's Americans or Germans and there's Russians, different cultures. How are you going to manage that? In South Africa itself, we have many cultures there, right? We have the former European, okay, the English and the Dutch, huge populations. We have, you know, Indian population, we have a large African or Black population, and within that, they all have different cultures. So many different cultures. And I have had a lot of challenges in managing that because different cultures have different expectations as well. So you need to manage that as well. So that is what you would do in your gap analysis. Stage 4, after you've done the gap analysis, you will now do your implementation strategy. Again, asking yourself questions. What is the scope of the implementation? Scope? It's like when you do a project, you do a scope, right? What are the barriers, enablers, and risks of this implementation, and how are we going to deal with those? Barriers meaning anyone that's not supporting you. Enablers, anyone that's supporting you, okay? All right? And risks, okay? When you implement something, there's always risks, okay? Anyone here wants to define what a risk is? Just as a refresher. An event or something that may or may not happen. May or may not. Doesn't mean it will happen, all right? I'm going to come back to that a bit later on, okay? Are we going to hire a consultancy to assist us? Important point. In some instances, when you're forming a PMO in an organization, you've got project managers who are skilled and experienced enough to maybe run a PMO. Suddenly the person now is a PMO manager because of the skills and experiences, there's confidence the company has in the person running the PMO, okay? If you don't, then you may need to consider getting someone from outside who's got knowledge and experience in implementing a PMO, something to consider. Do we start a small pilot and grow it through quick wins, or do we set up a global company-wide implementation? Meaning, it's a big organization. You're implementing a PMO. You may ask yourself, do you want to implement the PMO that now goes across the organization, or do you want to have it as a test first? Now, let me give you an example. It's a huge company. You may want to do a test first before implementing it company-wide. What I mean by that is, say the IT department has a fair number of projects. You may want to have the PMO first within the IT department, not reporting to the IT, but you want to do it only for the IT projects, okay? And once you see that working or certain things that's not working, you want to make adjustments and make it work well within that unit. And once it's working well there, then now you can implement it across the company. You don't want a situation whereby if you're unsure, you implement it across the company and things don't work. So the PMO is now a failure. That is the last thing you want. You want the PMO to be a success. And it's something to consider. Again, what applies in one situation may not apply to another situation. Every company is unique, right, in terms of size, complexity, cultural aspects, and so on. So you need to consider your current organization, what would be the best, company-wide, or do it as a test for one particular unit. And what are the critical successful factors for implementation? That is what I'm going to be covering next, the critical success factors, okay? And the last one is, you've got your implementation strategy, and now it's implementation plan, the last step. What is our roadmap for implementation? Roadmap, where are we starting, where are we going? How long is the implementation going to take place, right? And what we're going to be doing. So remember I said the PMO implementation is a project. It's like how you would do a normal project, right? Your roadmap. What are the implementation phases and key milestones? Your project scheduling, key milestones. What you're going to be doing when you're going to be doing your business case, when you're going to be doing your project charter, when you're going to be doing the training, when you're going to be doing this, and so on. And what you may want to consider, I don't know if I've got it there, is a roadshow. A roadshow, are you guys familiar with the term, a roadshow? Meaning, when I did this year, right, implemented the PMO, I did what I call a roadshow, meaning I went across the organization and presented to them what a PMO is all about within this organization. And basically, it's like my charter, presenting my charter, which had all the information you saw earlier. This, right? So that everyone in the organization knew what the PMO is all about. So when they knew that and what we can do, then we got the support, okay? How many resources do we need? Here we're implementing a PMO. We need resources, right? So depending on, again, the size of your organization and the complexity, we may need more resources. It could be resources only within the company, or you may need to get some consultants to help you. How much will it cost? Okay, you need to define it. Remember I said it's a project, it's like a project, so it's going to cost you, okay? How do we guarantee the PMO sustainability? Sustainability, continuation. How are we going to measure its performance and improve it? Again, every single stage of the 5, you see now I've got there a number of questions. Always ask yourself questions, and these are the questions you should be asking, okay? Now, in my case, at the ELIDZ, the last point. How do we measure its performance? Every year, right, I have a questionnaire. In fact, I did it last week. I have a set of questions, right? It's a survey that I send to all the project managers within the organization. And I have a different set of questions that I send to the executives, okay? And on a scale of 1 to 5, poor, fair, good, very good, excellent, they will answer those questions. I've got my feedback last week, just before coming to Russia. And there's some good input. You know, sometimes you see you're doing something well, sometimes you see you're not doing something that well. And that will give you an idea of how you are performing in the eyes of the others, all right? So on an annual basis, on a yearly basis, I get those responses from the project managers and the executives, and then I look at it, and then I devise a strategy of how I'm going to improve as a PMO, as a service to the organization. Making sense? All right, okay. I think we're going to be on time. Critical success factors. I'll wait for the cameras. It's fine. We got time. Okay. Critical success factors. Very important, right? Because remember, when you're implementing a PMO, you want it to succeed. It's like when you're implementing a project, you just want it to succeed. There's almost no reason why a project should fail. Even if it's a PMO implementation, then there shouldn't be a reason why things should fail. Establish the right reporting structure to position the PMO for strategic success. There was a question earlier, right? And we spoke about it. Where does a PMO report to? If it's seen right at the bottom as one small unit reporting to one insignificant division, you may not, right, be positioning yourself for success. But if it is positioned at a high level, right, it's going to get the support of the top people, and you all know there's more chances of your PMO succeeding if you position it correctly. All right? Structure the PMO to operate with a corporate-wide span of influence. All right? We spoke about this last time. There could be different PMOs, but let's assume now there's one PMO. Structure it such, right, okay, that you have a corporate-wide, company-wide span of influence. That PMO is focusing on the entire company. So basically, it's regarding and affecting projects across the organization and not just certain aspects of the organization. So eventually what you want as a PMO is to be respected. Everyone within the organization, when they say PMO, oh, wow, you know what? Devan's asking for this year. Devan implemented this year. Because of your knowledge and your experience and the way you do things, you are now respected and you will get the results. Empower the PMO with executive level authority. Again, it talks to the first point, executive level authority. If your PMO is an insignificant small unit in some small division, maybe it's not going to have that authority. But if it's somewhere at the top reporting to like some top manager, it's going to have more authority, okay? Provide project administration support to project managers. Now, you know, when you do a project, there's a lot of documentation to do and reporting, right? I think we all know that. We've got to do the charter, we've got to do risk management, issue management, change control, and a lot of reporting as well. Where the PMO can assist, okay, with project administration, right? The lower level tasks, it should assist. If you have the resources to assist project managers, please support them, right? Sometimes, and at ELIDS, some project managers are basically on their own, or they got one staff reporting to them. They don't have a lot of time to do project documentation. So my staff would go in and assist them in doing certain project documentation. They would, I'll give you an example. I will tell one of my staff, please assist so-and-so in creating the risk register. So they will create the risk register using the risk register template with the project name and the project manager, and start the risk management process with the project manager. Now, let's have a brainstorming session on your project. Let's assume it's this and this and this. What are the potential risks? So they will do a risk management of the project. Maybe they will come up with 5 or 10 risks, but it's a start. So that is the support we're talking about, okay? Because if you don't do it, the project manager may not even start the risk register. That's what I'm talking about, okay? Deploy standardized tools and techniques. Okay, tools and techniques. I spoke about it earlier. Okay, now, like risk management, there's how you would do risk management in an organization that you would roll out across the organization to all the projects and project managers. Tools, project scheduling, we spoke about earlier. If you don't have a standard tool, then maybe, or if you don't have a system, then maybe you want to have someone doing project scheduling using the same tool like MS Projects. Okay. Streamline paperwork. Please, I can mention this point very strongly. Don't create too much of paperwork, all right? You will see less is more. Everyone in ELIDs at ELITs, when they hear the name Devan Naidu, they will always hear me saying, less is more. Keep it simple. Have less documentation so that the project manager has more time to focus on the project, delivering a successful project. You don't want to be saddled with doing only project documentation all the time. So much so that you don't have time to focus on delivering a successful project. So project documentation is necessary, but keep it to the bare minimum so that project managers will have time to focus on the real nuts and bolts of the project. Make project managers accountable for success of the projects. How you do that? Understand the roles and responsibilities. Project manager, if you are running the project, you are responsible for it. The PMO is there to support you in training, in coaching, and analyzing the projects in terms of where you are not meeting your objectives and giving you guidance. But they must be responsible for delivering the successful project. Okay? Turn project managers into project execution logicians. What I mean by turn project managers into project execution logicians. You can give a project manager, here's a methodology, follow it. That's not on. That won't work. You need to continuously train them, coach them, motivate them so that they know how to manage projects, right? So they won't come to you eventually for everything on a project. When you train them well enough, right? When it comes to project execution, they will know how to manage projects on their own. They will come to you only when they need something if they're unsure of, but not for everything on a project. Execution, they need to be good at executing a project. Develop a repository of project templates, checklists, and expert resources. Okay, I mentioned earlier project templates. In ELITs, everyone follows standard templates. There is no way that you will all have doing your own business cases on different templates, or doing your project charters on different templates, or doing risk management, issue management, or change control on different templates. I've standardized it. It's on the intranet. So if you need to get a template, you will go there and fill it out. So when I update the templates, I put the new version on the intranet, and the staff will get the latest template. If it's not done on a template that it's been approved and updated, I send it back to them and I ask them to do it on the approved latest template because we need to have it standardized. Okay? Deploy a pragmatic methodology for evaluating, approving, and prioritizing projects. Your business case template would normally, if you have the right things in your business case template, that will help you in terms of evaluating, approving, and prioritizing templates, projects. Next slide. More critical success factors. Maintaining a lessons learned database. It's something that I love, lessons learned. Okay. If there's one thing I can strongly advise everyone here, if you are not doing lessons learned in your organization, try and start that as soon as possible. Whether you have a PMO or not, even if you are managing projects, if you are not doing lessons learned, start it now. You will have my email at the back, at the last slide. You can take it down and you can email me and I am prepared to email you the template that I use for lessons learned. It works beautifully, and I'll give you some examples of how those things should work. I've got the objectives there, right, and what to focus on lessons, and I've got a template. It's in Excel, but it works beautifully, okay? So, lessons learned. What I do there, if I could just mention again, I consolidate the lessons of all the projects in the organization, okay? And on a regular basis, when I come to the governance and reporting on the project performances to the top management, including the CEO, I do an analysis of the lessons learned. So they can see where the main focus areas are, okay? Adequate funding and support of PMO functions and operations. The success of the PMO will also depend on how well it is supported. If it is not supported well from the top, it is most likely going to fail. Most likely. Not that it will, if it's not supported from the top, financially and emotionally. If you got top management support, you know there's a high chance of it being success. Prioritization of training programs. I spoke about this earlier. Training is a key foundation for delivering successful projects/programs. That will continue all the time. You just cannot train once and say, everyone, now you've been trained, you deliver successful projects. It doesn't stop there. And anyway, project management is such a growing and dynamic field. We are also learning all the time. There's new things coming up. So I always need to keep abreast of new information, new knowledge. And when I get that, I incorporate that into my training programs, okay? The management team provides the PMO with unanimous, visible, and vocal support. What do I mean by that? The management team, the top management, they must support you openly in the organization. Meaning that if something is not working the way it should be, meaning, and I'll give you an example, if project managers are not completing key project documentation, okay? Like say change control. They implement changes in the project, but they are not getting the changes authorized. I am telling them, please project managers, you need to get your changes authorized by the project sponsor before you implement those changes. And if they are not doing it, if top management says, project managers, we need this now to be implemented. No change will be accepted without it being approved by the project sponsor. If they say that, people will normally listen, because the more senior you are, the more authority you have, okay? So in your PMO, make sure you get the support of the top management, because where some things are not working, you need to escalate, you escalate to top management, and they will get the decisions for you. Introduction of PMO functions in a phased manner, okay? Don't try and do all this at once. Remember, when you're implementing a PMO, there's a lot of things you're implementing. People are not used to a lot of new templates and processes. So you may want to say, you're going to implement this now. Once they all are familiar with the project management methodology, that's pretty simple, and you've got a few basic templates, and they all know it, then you can start adding to it, okay? You don't want to put in so much, 20 templates and 20 procedures or activities to complete a project, but it's just too much for them. You want to do it in a phased manner. If this works, add a bit more, add a bit more. The management team supports this process of change. Okay, remember, now things are changing in the organization. The PMO has got methodology and new templates, and you want, again, the management team to support it, okay? You can only advise and train and coach the project managers to some extent. But once their managers support the process, then it's easier for you because they're getting the directive directly from their managers. The next slide, additional success factors, still important. A consistent approach to planning and managing projects is implemented across the organization. Sorry, Andre?
Yeah, Devan, a couple of messages from online. Are you ready to listen to them and answer?
Sure.
Okay. So first, it's a question. Can you share the templates, please?
Which templates? I can share the lessons learned template.
Templates and examples of lessons learned. We are developing it in our PMO. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, I mentioned earlier on the last slide, you will have my email address. If you want that information, I can share it with you. I'll email it to you. So yes, okay.
And second question from Ekaterina Nazarova. Is it common that PMs come and leave the company once their project is completed? How to make them stay and motivate to start all over again with new projects?
Yeah, that is something that you can't control, right? So, I mean, the question is, you know, project managers, they will leave. They will. How do you keep them, right? Every company will have what we call a retention strategy. Well, not every company. Some companies don't, right? But it's something that you can't control. I mean, if you want to leave an organization because there's a better job, or because for whatever reason, you will leave. But it shouldn't be because of the PMO or because you have a lot of documentation to complete. But the PMO must be there to support the project managers in delivering successful projects. So I'm not too sure if I answered the question, but it's something that's often beyond one's control. Okay, but that's where the questionnaire, right, is important. I'm coming to you now. The questionnaire I mentioned that you do on an annual basis, you could do it every 6 months if you want, right? To the respective project managers and to the executives, and then you get an idea of how well you are doing as a PMO. Andre?
Oops, sorry.
Sure.
One more question from Tanya Milik. Do you have some in-house online video course to train new PMs in order to minimize effort? If yes, is it working well?
No, the answer is I don't. It is in the process of, well, we didn't start yet, but it is something that we've thought about, but it also depends on resources and time management. But because we are a small PMO and I'm spending a lot of time reporting, and because we have Excel templates, it just takes more time putting things together. But it is a good suggestion, and I like that question. Right? I think, did you all hear that? Do we have online videos to support training? That's a nice thing to have. Now, instead of me keep on training someone on project on, say, risk management, I could have a video, right, that I developed. And if you want to know something on project risk management, you can go on my intranet site and you can play the video. That's a good suggestion. It's something that has been taught about, Andre, just to answer the question, but we don't have it yet. Project management is recognized as a core competency, okay? Project managers need to know how to manage projects. Question to you, do you have situations whereby in your organization you have people managing projects but don't know much about project management? Yes, you know, okay, no, all right, so you do have some of them. It happens, you know, sometimes in some organizations, almost everyone is a project manager, okay? But they just don't know much about project management, which is maybe not their fault. You need to ask, have they been trained properly, or have they been put in the right position to manage projects? So sometimes it's not their fault. If I've got no project management knowledge and I am asked to now run this project, according to proper project management principles, I need to be trained and coached accordingly. Or maybe give it to someone who has the knowledge and experience of project management. So sometimes it's not always the fault of the project manager. Okay. The PMO's balance between project support and control function is defined and communicated to ensure that departments understand what is expected of them and what they should expect from the PMO. All right? Remember, I said early on what the PMO would do, the functions of a PMO. Once that is communicated to the project management community, they know what they can expect from you. And once you define what their roles and responsibilities as project managers are, you know what to expect of them. And I said earlier in my project charter, what the PMO is not. We will not be responsible for delivering successful projects. You will be as project managers, but we will support you in what you need. So that's what I'm talking about. The PMO leverages industry standards and best practices. Basically saying, understand PMBOK, understand Prince2 if you want to, or if you have knowledge of it. Take the best and make it work for you, okay? There's a lot of information in PMBOK, a lot of information on the internet. Take what you can and make it work. Don't put too much, just incremental and make it work. The organization defines its strategy. The PMO focuses on the projects central to the realization of the strategy. Okay, can I explain that? The organization will have its vision, mission, and its strategic objectives, organization. I mentioned in my business case template, I want the project managers to say, how does that project tie into our corporate objectives? That's what it is. The board of directors and top management will be involved in the strategy, okay? And the PMO will support the company in making sure that the projects align to the strategy. That's what it's about. And the last point, the PMO adjusts its operation based on continuous staff and customer feedback. Remember I spoke about the questionnaires, okay? As I get those questionnaires every year, I analyze the results and I change what needs to be changed. If one of my questions was, is benefits management, right, being strongly reported on and advocated in the organization? I'm giving you an example. And if most of the respondents said, mark me as a 2 on a scale of 1 to 5, say my average was a 2, that means I'm not doing it as well as I should be doing. Am I right? So now I've got to devise a strategy of how I should improve on my benefits management. That is what it's about. And I must think about this. I possibly could share some questionnaires on that if you want, if you're interested. So you can mail me on that. Now, this is relating to my company at the moment, Elids. This is how our governance structure works at the moment, okay? If you focus on the right-hand side, the green block, we've got a list of 4 programs. Meaning, any project within the organization will fall into any of those 4 programs. Okay? If we are doing building factories, right, for investors, it will go in the first one. Simple, investment and infrastructure. If we are doing an ERP implementation or another computer system implementation, it will go program number 3. Okay, all right. Now, I want you to see the right-hand side, but look at it from the bottom going up, okay? At the bottom is where the project is happening. you can see there's project management teams. Project happening, there's project teams, right? The project manager will have project meetings, is what we call project management teams meetings. Okay, so the project manager will have the meetings, how often they want, right? I don't define that. The project manager will define, based on the project, how often he or she wants to have the project meeting. Okay. Members who consist of that project team, the project manager has to be there, project team members, and other key contributors. What I mean by other key contributors, whoever that project manager feels should be incorporated into the project. If, an example, it's an IT project, they are doing a system for the finance department. Who will be the key contributor? People from finance, because the system is delivered for them. That's what I mean. Okay, so that happens at the project level. You will see what we have at ELITS. We have program steering committees. It's something we have every month. Now, what happens there in our current company is, I will consolidate all the projects, right, in terms of its performance for each of these programs. And we will have a program steering committee. Who attends that? The executive sponsor. That means the person in charge of the division of the program. The respective project managers. I attend that because I put the information together. And again, other key contributors. What happens at that level at ELITS is the project managers report on the performance of each of the projects to their sponsor, to the program sponsor. I'm there to show the information and contribute in terms of what I know about the projects and where I can guide the project managers. But the project managers report on this performance of their projects to the project sponsor. And on once a month basis, we have what we call a portfolio governance committee meeting. Again, I consolidate the performances of the projects. Now, who attends that? That's where the CEO attends. That's when we are reporting at the highest level on a monthly basis. The CEO, the executive managers, right, who are also sitting at project in the middle level, and I. It's a very small team. Myself, the executive managers, who are the program owners, and they report to the CEO. Now, if you look at, I'm gonna bring you back to the middle block. Here, the project managers report the status of the projects to the executive managers. At the top level, the project managers are not there. The executive managers now report the performance of their projects to the CEO. So the CEO knows that on a once a month basis how the projects are performing. Now, how it's done? I prepare a project's dashboard, and from there we report on the projects. I don't report, the executive management, the project sponsors report to the CEO, and he will ask the questions that he needs to. And I'm there to support and give whatever support I need to. Sometimes I know the issues that a certain project is facing, and I will explain to the CEO, this is happening because of this, and so on. And this is what we should be doing, and this is what we should not be doing. Okay, so that is our governance structure. The question now is, does anyone have something similar to this? Or do you have a governance structure at all? You do. Okay, lovely. And is it something similar? Oh, lovely. All right. You don't. Okay, all right. Okay, so, oh, okay. But would this help in maybe you developing a governance structure now? It would. Okay, so something to take into account. Again, in upcoming, you need to define, right, in your governance structure. I don't have it here. It's a confidential document. I've got here my project governance structure. Here I've got, okay, the roles and responsibilities, okay, of, okay, the Portfolio Governance Committee, the Program Steering Committee, right, and the PMO. So, always important, whenever you do these things, the charters and the governance structure, take a note, define the roles and responsibilities. I could belong to a PMO, and if I don't define my roles and responsibilities, and if people don't understand it, it's not going to make much sense. The same with all the governance structures. Every structure needs to have the roles and responsibilities defined. If you don't have that, it's going to create chaos in your organization. Andre.
Yeah, Devan, sorry, I was told that we have 5-10 minutes maximum.
Okay, yeah. I'm almost done. And I want to share with you, this is about the last slide, okay? The lessons learned in the current organization I am with at Illitz. Okay. I want to take maybe a few more minutes on this. Very important, lessons learned. What are the lessons that we learned in my current PMO? Reviewing of business cases. Other signatories not reviewing these properly. What happens there is that business cases were done and people need to sign it before it comes to me. Right? I said there's manager, the project sponsor, and the CFO. What was happening, right, is that people were signing these things without reviewing the documentation. So there were mistakes in the business cases that were not being picked up. But because I review it from the first page to the last page, I was seeing some errors, right? So I informed the other signatories, so please review the document properly, right? It shouldn't be coming to me to pick up all the mistakes. Next lesson, business cases are not being updated with changes to the project. What happens there is that there's a business case done and the project is implemented. Changes were taking place during the project, but the business case was not updated. Question quickly, do you have the situation in your organization? Now, something to consider is that when a business case is done, when there are changes, significant changes in the project, the business case needs to be updated. Version 2, version 3, because when you do benefits management, you're going to turn to the latest version of the business case, right? So business cases were not being updated. That's another lesson we learned. Project sponsors not providing timely support to the project managers. Any project, there's going to be issues, okay? When you encounter an issue, you will escalate it to the project sponsor. What was happening in our case, project sponsors were not giving the support to the project managers on a timely basis. If you have an issue as a project manager, you escalate to the project sponsor, you need a decision quick. Otherwise, it's going to cause a delay in your project. So that was another lesson that we learned. Project managers not completing the standard project documentation and templates. Some people were choosing what they used to use before the PMO was implemented, right? So I said, no, we've got a standard, we've got standard templates, let's use that. That was another lesson. Number 5, project managers not completing project status reports fully and accurately. For every single project, I've got a standard project reporting template. Every month, the project manager needs to complete how a project is being done, the status. And some of them are doing it properly, and some of them are not filling in information. So that's another lesson. 6, the change control procedure was not being followed by some PMs, project managers. Changes were happening in the project, but they were not being documented. Suddenly, the project manager decides to do some changes and not getting the authority from the project sponsor. And that should never happen in any project environment. Every change should be documented and approved. 7, executive management not interpreting projects dashboard correctly. I'll do a projects dashboard where I will show at the governance committee. Executive managers, some of them don't know how to interpret. What I use there is the red, amber, green. Right? Are you familiar with it? Okay. If you will put colors red, yellow, or green in terms of yes. So some of them are not interpreting it correctly. Sometimes a project is red and they will not do much about it. But if a project is red, meaning there's something that requires attention. 9, risk management not done properly and completely. People were not focusing properly on risk management. A very important part of project management is risk management. I see you nodding. That's meaning that's happening there, right? Risk management is so important. Why? Because you want to record what could potentially happen. And if the risk happens or materializes, you know exactly what to do because you have documented it. You don't want a situation whereby you are running a project, suddenly something happens, you ask yourself, oh, now what do I do? If it was recorded in your risk register, you will record the risk, right? What is the probability of it happening? What is, right, the impact, and what is the proposed resolution? If it happens, then you already know what to do. Lessons learned, not done it properly and completely. Before I arrived, no one knew what was lessons learned. So now it's a big focus within an organization. One thing again, I will say it again, focus a lot on lessons learned. It will save you a lot of time and a lot of money. You meaning you and the organization, yes. Okay, I'll come to you.
Do you have a lessons learned process review or process about lessons learned, how to register it, how to review it, who should review it, when? And
yes, I do. Following the template in terms of the process, once the lessons are recorded, it should not stop there. The project manager needs to take note of the lessons, and the project sponsor needs to know what the lessons are, right? And I analyze the lessons and I report the analytics of the lessons at the governance level on a monthly basis. So people understand where the key lessons, where things are not working and where things are working well. So it's important to do an analysis of your lessons across the projects. Okay, there's a question here.
Is the number of lessons is a priority of the problem? The number of lessons is equal of priority of problem.
I don't think if I understood you. No, it's not an order.
Big problem for your...
The biggest one, the big ones. Of those, my biggest concerns, right, would be, I would say, lessons learned. Pardon? Number 12. That's also a lesson, right? But if you ask me, one of the bigger lessons is, or the biggest lessons learned is, lessons learned are not being recorded. But now it's not so much of a problem because I made it a standard process that all managers must follow.
Alexandra wants to ask is, what is the biggest problem in your practice and in Pmo implementation? What was the biggest problem and how you solved it?
Okay. Number 3. Project sponsors were not supporting the project managers. I see you are nodding, you are agreeing. Okay, so that happens as well. Now, how do we get that sorted out? We need to give training to the project sponsors, right? And I'll tell you how you do it. Don't only train project managers on project management. Train the project sponsors as well. Invite them to your training. Let them understand project management, okay? That's the executive management. They don't need to become PMP certified and so on. No, they need to know what project managers is about, and they need to know the roles and responsibilities. Once they know the roles and responsibilities, now what I told them is that project managers, I told the project sponsors, The project managers are responsible for the project. You are accountable for the project. If the project is a failure, the CEO is not going to talk to the project manager. He's going to come to you. I told every single project sponsor, the CEO is going to come to you, not to the project manager. And as soon as I told them that, okay, what do we need to know? And I got them all on board. Please get your project sponsors fully aware of their roles and responsibilities and train them. If you don't have a training session like this, have a one-on-one and put it in your governance structure, right? Okay, and your PMO charter. What are their responsibilities? Penalty clauses not contained in contracts with suppliers. Can I explain that? Do you understand it? Now, we enter into contracts with suppliers, right? When we enter into a contract, we want the supplier to do certain things, right? But what was happening is that when we were entering into contracts, we didn't have penalty clauses. What I mean by that is, I'm saying in my contract, if you don't do something properly as a contractor, if you don't give me the good quality, then I'm going to take out so much of money from the contract. So if you were meant to do a building properly, the way according to my quality standards, if you didn't do it the way I expected, right, as contained in the contract, you're not going to get the money we've agreed. There will be penalty clauses on that. Very important, very, very important. Ensure that your contracts with your suppliers have penalty clauses, because what happens often, I enter into a contract with you, okay? You're going to deliver this IT system for me. I'm going to pay you $1 million. What you interested in? Getting your $1 million. That's all, right? What I'm interested in, I want a system that works. If I have a penalty clause in there that if this don't work, that doesn't work, or this doesn't satisfy our requirements, 10% of the contract is not going to be paid to you, or 20%. When I have that clause, what happens? You're going to now make sure that you deliver a good product. And if you don't, I'm not going to pay you $1 million. I'm going to pay you maybe 80% of it. So have those penalty clauses in your contracts. Very, very important, because you want to cover yourself, right? You want to protect yourself. You want to protect the company, because that's what you are there for. Project schedules not being updated, okay? I think a lot of us have that, okay, issue. Scope documents not done in detail. Another important point, what I've seen as well. People are in the projects not doing a detailed scope documentation. That causes problems. I enter into a contract with you, I want to do the detailed scope. And when I do that, I want to sit with you and go through the scope in detail so that you and I understand it. Because what I put there is what I understand it. And when you read it, you may understand it and interpret it differently. So sit with the service provider or the internal customer and go line by line, right? In terms of the scope. What is expected, right? So that you both understand exactly equally, so that in the end, there is no misunderstanding. I'm not going to say, but I wanted this. And you're not going to say, but oh, I thought you wanted this. It's too late. Do it at the beginning. Sit together and make sure you both have a common understanding of all the detailed requirements. That's scope management. Misallocation of project costs. What is happening in our company when the project documentation goes now to payment to the suppliers, finance was allocating the cost to different projects. So that messed up, our analysis of the projects. So that was another lesson. I'm going to talk about, spend 1 minute, misunderstanding between an issue and a risk. When I went into the organization, everything in the organization was a risk. Everything. No one knew what is an issue. Right? I said, oh, hang on. There's a big difference between an issue and a risk. I want to tell you now, but before I do, I'm going to leave it to you. Anyone here wants to tell me what is the difference? I want to make this interactive. Yeah, here you go. Everyone's eager to hear to you.
So risk is something in the future with some probability, with some impact, but in the future. But an issue is something that's happening right now.
Perfect. 100%. There you go. So what was happening in Elids? Everything was treated as a risk. And I said, whoa, hang on. A risk is only something that may happen. It's relating to the future. Whatever is happening right now is an issue. You take it out and record in your issue register. So in my templates, there's an issue register template and a risk register. So I've got definitions of what an issue is and what a risk. And I said, if ever you are unsure, ask yourself this one question. Is what you're identifying, is it current or is it future? Simple. If it's current, goes to your issue register. If it's relating to the future, goes to your risk register. You cannot go wrong. One question, current or future. So that was a huge problem at Elids. Okay, do you, sorry? Yeah, correct, yeah. So when a risk materializes, it becomes an issue, right? So do you find it a problem in your company as well, some of you? People not knowing the difference? Okay, so that's not just in South Africa or Russia. I can guarantee you it happens all over. Okay, and discussion. I don't know how much of time we've got, Andre. I know we started late, but we are running late as well. I've just got the, maybe we can allow 2-3 minutes on this. If it's okay with you?
Yeah, I think we need to speed up yet because we were planning until 9.
Okay, all right. I've had here a discussion, but I think we've had a lot of discussion already as we were going through. The reason why I had this here is that if we didn't have discussion during the presentation, then one would have recorded all your points, and we could have discussed them here. All right, but it's maybe something to consider quickly for a minute. Is there a culture to promote project, program, and portfolio management in an organization? We don't have to answer it, but it's something to think about. What current organizational structures exist within organizations on project management in your organizations? What structures do you have? What type of organizations do you see as having an opportunity to implement PMOs? Always try and relate it to your company. And what functions do you see a PMO should fulfill in your organization? I had a slide earlier of functions. Those are the functions that I've got in my PMO charter. It may not be the same as the one in your PMO. It can change, but normally you would have the basic functions, right, documented in your charter. So what I would do is say, thanks for the attention. Thanks for the discussion. You have my details. You are welcome to send me a mail. I'm also on WhatsApp. Everyone has WhatsApp these days. So I'll be happy to engage with you and share with you my knowledge, my information, and my experience as much as I can. We are one community. There may be certain things that I consider confidential, and if it is, I will tell you. But if it's not, if I'm sharing it with you freely, you can use it. So I am available, and I hope that on my next return to Russia, that we'll meet again on some other topic. If you can tell me something that you would like me to focus on, I'm happy to do it. Right? So next week, this week, I'll be in St. Petersburg running the White Nights Marathon, 42 kilometers, only 42 kilometers. Maybe next year I'll come and do the Moscow Marathon in September. I don't know. I was thinking of the Siberian Marathon in Omsk, which is in August. There's one in Yekaterinburg and the Urals, and there's lots. So I don't know when I'll be here again. But I must give you, say, spasibo. What I meant to mention earlier is that I started learning a language, okay? And you can see, okay, the Russian alphabet, I'm learning. So I think I know my Russian alphabet, but it doesn't mean I know how to speak and understand Russian. But I've taken a keen interest in learning Russian. Maybe when I return, I can speak a bit of Russian. So again, thanks a lot for attending. Thanks for your attention and your discussion. All the best.